We sure do get a lot of bug-based superhero movies these days. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 14th film in the DCEU, DC's 2023 sci-fi action superhero movie, Blue Beetle. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Blue Beetle stars Xolo Maridueña, Bruna Marquezine, and George Lopez, and was directed by Ángel Manuel Soto. It tells the story of Jaime Reyes, a recent college grad who finds himself linked with a piece of alien biotechnology that gives him unexpected powers. Generally speaking, I like superhero movies, but I've always had trouble getting excited for comic book movies about characters I wasn't already familiar with. That's not to say I don't usually end up liking those movies, I just rarely have any anticipation for them. I was already aware of Blue Beetle's existence, at least, having seen him in a handful of DC animated movies over the years, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that he was a character I was familiar with. So, when the Blue Beetle movie was announced, it didn't really do anything for me. Its confusing half-in, half-out placement in the DCEU didn't help with my anticipation either. It's technically the penultimate movie of the DCEU, which is going to be ending this December, but apparently Blue Beetle is going to be one of the characters who's making the jump to the DCU when that replacement cinematic universe gets up and running. This obviously puts the film in a bit of a weird spot. It's a DCEU film, but it's probably going to end up being considered a de facto DCU film. So with all this in mind, I went into Blue Beetle without any anticipation, but also without any real expectations either. And I've gotta say, I came out pleasantly surprised by this very familiar but somehow refreshing superhero movie. When it comes to comic book movies, I've always had a soft spot for origin stories, which I guess is a good thing, because that's the type of story we get every time a new character, or a new iteration of a character, is brought to the big screen. Blue Beetle is the theatrical introduction of Jaime Reyes and his insect alter ego, so as expected, this movie's an origin story. Pretty much all origin stories follow the same basic plot, and Blue Beetle's no different in that regard. It has a very familiar story, and even has a familiar throwback 2000s fun superhero vibe to it, similar to Venom, for instance. This film's action and fight choreography are decent, and the CG isn't all that bad either, but it does eventually stumble into the all-too-common pitfall of thinking an extended fight scene between two entirely CG characters is interesting for us to watch. As I've said though, I'm a fan of origin stories, so I don't mind the familiarity here, but I suspect that this story might feel excessively derivative to many people, considering we've had 2 straight decades of comic book movies like this. There is, without a doubt, a lot here that we've seen before, but there are also aspects of this film that add a unique flavor and mix things up a bit from the norm. Starring as DC's first Latino superhero in a leading role, Xolo Maridueña is immensely enjoyable. He brings an energetic and vibrant youthfulness to Jaime Reyes, without ever making him feel too juvenile. So even though he passes through many of the familiar origin story plot beats, his charm and enthusiasm for the role ensure that he remains an engaging character. This movie proudly showcases Latino culture, which steeps this comic book movie in tradition not usually represented in the genre. In addition to, and as an expansion upon, the cultural aspects, Blue Beetle brings family into the equation much more than typical superhero films. Rather than Jaime being a character with a tragic family past, he's got a large and very present family here. And unlike so many other superhero films, he doesn't try to hide his superhero alter ego from his family. In fact, they're present the first time he becomes Blue Beetle, and are endlessly supportive of him, and of each other throughout. There are plenty of jokes in this film, but there's also a surprising amount of counterbalancing heart and emotion. The central theme of familial love and support is a little excessively used. It never quite reaches Fast and Furious family levels, but it does get a tad repetitive, though it still keeps that wholesome hero lesson feel to it. As enjoyable as the protagonist and his family are, the villains of the story are more than a little underwhelming. They're not bad, just bland and unremarkable. We've got a hands-off corporate baddie, and then the henchman who does most of the actual antagonistic work in the story. Like I said before, I'm not very familiar with Blue Beetle, so maybe these two characters are iconic villains of his, but at least in this movie, they feel like throwaway characters cobbled together to try to add some sort of conflict to the story. I will say, though, that it was nice to have a new superhero movie that doesn't revolve around some huge universe-ending threat. The comparatively low-stakes threat here was a breath of almost fresh air. It was also an incredibly pleasant surprise to find that Blue Beetle is a standalone film. For the past decade and a half, comic book movies have been so preoccupied with fitting into cinematic universes by creating crossover references and inserting cameos that the art of a standalone superhero movie has largely been lost. This will surely be pulled into some retroactive crossover connection once the DCU officially kicks off, but for right now at least, Blue Beetle is one of the increasingly rare comic book movies that can just stand on its own, as its own contained thing. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is the family dynamic. When the film kicked off, I actually thought this was going to be one of the more irritating aspects of the story, with the characters just being used for convenient humor. But this movie spends a lot of time on the Reyes family. We get to watch their interactions, learn about their history, and really see them as a cohesive family unit. Unlike a lot of other superheroes, Jaime has a present and very supportive family, who knows he's Blue Beetle as soon as he does. He never has to hide anything from them, and this loving, supportive family becomes a unique strength of his. The themes are harped on a bit too much at times, but it never becomes overly saccharine during the most emotional moments, because of the large doses of humor throughout. This family is entertaining together and apart, but Adriana Barraza as Nana was a standout for me. The second pro may sound like a strange, overly simplistic one, but it's how charming this movie is. When I go to the movies, I always bring a little notebook with me, and I take notes as I watch the film. And when I was looking back over my notes while writing this review, I realized I wrote the word charming 7 different times. I realize it's kind of a weird adjective to apply to a superhero movie, but it's what this movie is. It's got this fun but heartfelt tone to it that feels like a throwback to early 2000s superhero movies like Spider-Man. And then Jaime as a character, Xolo Maridueña's performance, the family interactions, there's just this quality that you don't find in many superhero movies these days. It's not too serious, it's not too goofy, it's not overly sarcastic or self-aware, but it's also not eye-rollingly over-sincere. It's just charming. On the con side, the biggest issue has gotta be the villains. I don't know if it's an unfortunate screenwriting trend, a symptom of superhero movie oversaturation, or what, but it's hard to find a good antagonist in a comic book movie these days. The villains here aren't bad, but they're just really bland. Their dynamic with one another, their evil scheme, the way their component of the story plays out, we've seen it all before, many times. Now, it'd be more than fair to say the same about the rest of the superhero origin story plot too, but at least Jaime and his family have some unique characterization, and the aforementioned charm to them. The villains? They're kind of just there to be a problem. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Blue Beetle or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Blue Beetle 3.5 out of 5 paws. This origin story for DC's first Latino superhero is structured with familiar plot beats, but its charming lead, fun throwback comic bookiness, and central family dynamic make for a fun and surprisingly fresh-feeling superhero film. I would recommend Blue Beetle to people interested in a fun, light superhero movie. It's not a throwaway fluff type of film, and certainly has its emotional components, but it does feel like a bit of a throwback to the bright, lighthearted fun of 2000s comic book movies. It's a pretty standard origin story, so you won't find any plot surprises here, but the family focus and celebration of Latino culture may add a unique enough flavor to the mix to keep things interesting in the era of superhero fatigue. If you liked Blue Beetle, I would recommend Venom. This film features a similar power-granting parasitic alien storyline, though it approaches things from a more cynical anti-hero angle. Like Blue Beetle, there are some fun moments of interaction between the alien and its symbiotic host, and this film shares in the same throwback 2000s vibe. If you want another charming bug superhero story, you might want to watch the 2002 Spider-Man. Really, any Spider-Man film would do, but this first film in the Sam Raimi trilogy offers up origin story fun, sincere family moments, and a likable, charming hero. And if you really liked the parasitic takeover moments of Blue Beetle, but want to venture outside of comic book movies, you should check out Upgrade. This movie focuses on a piece of symbiotech in the context of a revenge story, and also features some extremely entertaining body takeover sequences. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Blue Beetle? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie that focuses on a family? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies. The way life should be.